Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. And the game industry has been filled with controversy today. Now, don't worry, we do have some exciting stuff to talk about as well. Make sure to stay tuned for all of that. But both Nintendo and Xbox are currently dealing with some tricky situations. The Switch 2 has been facing quite a lot of criticism these past few days, though really the question now is whether or not this is even a big deal in the first place, or are some people just simply blowing it out of proportion? So I'm going to give you my first-hand experience about all of that, and then as far as Xbox goes, there appears to be a big change on the horizon regarding their first-party studios. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. Let's go get right into things, though, starting off with some good news. Like I said, we do have some exciting stuff to talk about as well, and that starts off with the Little Nightmares series. They dropped a new trailer today for Little Nightmares 3 that reveals its carnival-like setting and its official release date, which is October 10th. I mean, that really is the perfect time for a game like this. This is going to make for a great game to pick up and play during the Halloween month. I mean, that's assuming that this will be a good game, because truth be told, this is the first time the series is being handled by a completely different developer. Supermassive Games is developing it this time around, but, on the good side of things, they do have experience with the horror genre, and, I mean, so far it does look pretty good. So I think there's at least room for optimism in this case, but they weren't quite done with their announcements there. They also announced an enhanced edition for the first Little Nightmares game. It'll also release on October 10th unless you pre-order Little Nightmares 3, in which case you'll actually be able to play it right now through early access. So that's pretty cool, and plus, if you already own the first game, you will get a free upgrade when it releases on October 10th. Now, we also got an update for the Xbox MetaQuest 3S that leaked last week. They officially unveiled it today, and as you would expect, it has a nice Xbox design to it. I do like the way that it looks, though, of course, they're applying this is an Xbox slogan to it, which I'd say is a loose way of using that term. Yes, it can play Xbox games by using Xbox Cloud Gaming, and they're also including 3 months of Game Pass and a limited edition Xbox controller with every order, which, those are nice bonuses. But at the same time, this headset doesn't play Xbox games natively, nor can Xbox games take full advantage of virtual reality and its functionality. Rather, how this will work is that you can play Xbox games via the cloud and display it on a large screen display within the headset itself. Now, I imagine a feature like that is relatively niche, which is why I think that they are selling this in the correct way. Apparently, it will be extremely limited, and once it's gone, it's not going to come back. So, if you're interested, you're probably going to want to pick this up sooner rather than later, and you can actually order it right now for $400 US. Now, we also have a couple more showcases to talk about. We are still in the midst of the Gamers Holiday, aka the showcase season, and you can now add 2 more events to that list, including Arc System Works. They have a showcase planned for June 26, and they mentioned that there will be new game announcements. Of course, we could get an update from Marvel TOCON, which, I mean, that game looks fantastic. Welcome back, Marvel vs. Capcom without the, Capcom part. But that alone could make this event worthwhile. However, there are some rumors floating around that Guilty Gear fans might want to tune in as well. Now, as for the other showcase, this is for THQ Nordic, though this one's a bit further out. It's set for August 1st, so yeah, a bit of a wait there, but I always think these are worth keeping an eye on because, honestly, THQ Nordic just owns so much stuff. I mean, their quality can be hit or miss at times, but, they have the Darksider series, they have Gothic, they work on the 3D SpongeBob games, they have Destroy All Humans, Biomutant, and the list just kind of goes on and on and on. So you never completely know what you're going to get from them, but they have a lot of beloved IP in their house, and one thing that I do like about them is that they're one of the only publishers that truly invests into AA games. So yeah, I think their showcase could end up being interesting, again, on August 1st. Okay, so let's go and shift on over to some Nintendo Switch 2 news, and this has quickly become a major and very controversial story. I mean, if you look at the first couple of weeks of the Switch 2 launch, everybody's kind of been on cloud nine, and everybody seems to be saying how great it is. It's a big step up in power. It looks great. It plays great. And there's just been a lot of positive reactions for it, or at least until Digital Foundry posted their Switch 2 analysis. So the thing is that they weren't impressed by its LCD display for various different reasons, but the number one complaint that they had was its response time. It's apparently not great, and so much so that even the original Switch 1 had a better response time. Now, what this essentially means is that its motion clarity will look more blurry than what it should. It introduces things like ghosting as one such example, and they did their best to show what that looks like by slowing down their footage, and I think that's where a lot of the controversy starts to come in, because now there's two sides to this. There's the side that are making fun of Nintendo for doing something like this. How could they have a new console with this poor of response time? And then there's the other side that's defending the Switch 2 and are claiming that nobody will even notice this because it looks great to them personally. The thing about the internet is that it's not usually a very nuanced place. It's that you're either with me or against me type of mentality that we so often see on the internet. So I'm just going to give you my perspective when it comes to all this. Nobody has to agree with me, but I do have some good things to say, and I do have some bad things to say about it as well. So what I'll tell you all is that when I first picked up the Switch 2, for as much as I'm loving this thing, I personally was not blown away by its display. However, that's not because of this particular problem explained by Digital Foundry. I'll get into my issue here in a moment. But honestly, I really didn't notice any kind of ghosting, or at least yet. Now, I'm not saying that Digital Foundry is wrong. I 100% believe them because, they're very good at doing what they do. But apparently, I statistically fall into what is believed to be the majority of people who will not notice this specific issue. And I think that's one of the reasons this has become very controversial. A lot of people just don't notice it, and they're making fun of Digital Foundry for having to slow down their footage to even show it in motion. However, regardless of what side you sit on, Digital Foundry did note that it can be fixed via a software update. So this isn't really a hardware problem per se. It can be fixed by Nintendo in a future update. So kind of keep that in mind, that they can improve the Switch 2 display even more than what it currently is. Now, as for how I view the Switch 2 display, or why I wasn't super impressed by it, this really kind of falls more on the side of its colors and vibrancy. Personally, and this is just me, but I think it's a good solid display. But I do have several handhelds that I can compare it to, and in my opinion, there are a few handhelds out there that offers a better overall screen. The Steam Deck OLED, I think being the best of the bunch, looks better. The ROG Ally also, I think, has a better display. Really one of the best LCD screens that I've seen on a handheld device. And when we compare the Switch 2 even to the Switch OLED, I think the Switch 2 offers a better overall experience for more demanding games, but the Switch OLED still has more vibrant colors, which comes from the power of OLED technology. Now, not everybody will notice that unless they're side by side, because it's not a night-and-day difference like it was for the Switch 1 and the OLED model. Again, the Switch 2 display still looks good. But even still, what I'd personally like to see Nintendo do is to offer a vibrant mode for the Switch 2 similar to what they offer on the Switch OLED. Maybe let us customize the colors a little bit more, the heat, things like that. And that could improve its colors and its vibrancy just that much more. Now, again, the Switch 2 display still looks good, so don't misconstrue what I'm trying to convey here. Now, even still, I know a lot of people want an OLED model, and Nintendo has faced some criticism for going with an LCD, but you also have to remember that Nintendo is a very budget-friendly company, and a 120Hz HDR OLED display would have probably put it in a price range that Nintendo just wasn't comfortable with. So maybe we'll get an OLED model in the future, but that'll probably be 3+ years from now if they do. Now, if you want to wait for something like that, you can, but in my opinion, I do think the Switch 2 display, even if it's not the best display on the market, I do still think that it looks good for what it is. Now, as for the Digital Foundry analysis, though, personally, I haven't really noticed any ghosting, and honestly, I don't think most people will. I'll ask you, though, If you have a Switch 2, let me hear your opinion about its display in the comments below. Now, one more thing before we go. A big report went out today from Bloomberg that Microsoft plans to cut jobs within the Xbox division next week. The report reads, managers within Xbox are expecting substantial cuts across the entire group, according to people familiar with the plans who asked not to be identified discussing non-public information. The company declined to comment. Now, what substantial actually means, we're going to have to wait and see. But it's never fun to talk about layoffs. This has kind of been a brutal reality pretty much all generation long. We've had these job cuts from this company or that company for the entirety of this generation. But I'm just kind of hoping for the best right now. I'm hoping that this won't be as significant as it was last year. If you remember, last year they shut down a couple of their studios, one of which was Arcane Austin, the studio behind Redfall. And then even for Tango Gameworks, I think that was the big surprise, just because Hi-Fi Rush was so well received. Though the good news is that they were later revived thanks to Krafton buying them out. So my hope is that the job cuts aren't quite as significant as what we saw last year. So hopefully we don't see a repeat of anything like that this year, but either way, it does seem like they are going to downsize next week. So now it's just about which studios are going to be impacted and by how much. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.